welcome to Sustaining Food for Thought. My name is Claire. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make apple butter and I'm going to be drying some apples. So let's get started. Okay, so I've already started a little bit. I have some apples in here to dry, and then I have some apples in here for the apple butter. So I have my apples right here, and I'm using this apple peeler. It's very nice, and peeling all the apples. So first I'm going to show you all how to make apple butter, and then I will just show you the process of drying apples. It's pretty simple, but it's nice to see how to do it. So some of these apples are a little mealy, and that's why I'm making apple butter out of them and drying them. But the ones that are super mealy, I'm putting those in the apple butter bucket, and then the ones that are a little bit crispier, I'm using to dry, because it's a little bit harder to dry apples that are just super squishy, I guess. Peeling is done, we're going to start on the apple butter. So I'm going to put my apples in a Instant Pot for now. You can use the crock pot as well. I just use the Instant Pot on the crock pot setting. It's going to be based off of around 15 apples. You just have to shorten the recipe if you have less, or add more if you have more apples. I use are Matsu apples, and so they're naturally sweet. So for the apple butter recipe, I'm not going to be using sugar, but you can use sugar. So for the ingredients, I use a teaspoon of salt. I use 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. You can actually use vanilla bean, but we don't have any, so that's what I'm using. I use a tablespoon of ground cinnamon and 1/8 a teaspoon of cloves. And then if you wanted to add in sugar, for 15 apples, I would add a cup of brown sugar and 3/4 a cup of granulated sugar, just to add that extra sweetness. And so after I added the apples in and I add the ingredients in, you're going to let it simmer for 10 hours and then come back after 10 hours and then complete the process. After 10 hours, I use the Vitamix or just a blender to blend the apples, and then I'm going to let them simmer again for a couple hours. And that's just to, the simmering for 10 hours the first time does not break down the apples, and you want it to be like butter, so that just makes it smooth. To add that we do use pennies in our apple butter, and I don't specifically know the reason why. We have just always done it, and everybody has always said that the apple butter tastes great. It's something that has been passed down through recipes, and I actually could not find the exact reason, but I continue to do it because it's just something I've always done. So if you want to add a couple pennies that have been cleaned really well in your apple butter, I think it makes it taste really good. Okay, now that all the ingredients are added, I'm going to put the lid on and simmer it for 10 hours. And I'm going to press slow cook and then set the time for 10 hours. The apples, I'm going to show you the process of drying them. It's really straightforward. It's just good to see how to do it. So I just lay them on the tray flat, as you can see, and just so every single one can get dried. And then we're going to stick it in the dehydrator for about 6 to 12 hours. So I have all of my trays filled with apples and I'm going to go take them to the dehydrator.
In drying apples, you want the temperature to be 135 degrees Fahrenheit or 57 degrees Celsius.
Drying apple and making apple butter are great ways to preserve apples during apple season. Another great way to preserve apples after you make apple butter, or just if you have any scraps, is apple cider vinegar. We actually have some going right now, but what I do when I have a bunch of scraps, we have a whole bowl. I either feed it to the chickens, or I will fill this up fill a half gallon about halfway with apple scraps, and then fill the rest with water. And you want to leave about an inch between, and then I will add 2 cups of sugar and I will let them sit for 2 weeks with the apple scraps in there, and then I strain it out, and then you let it sit for 2 more weeks. And you want to keep it in more of a dry area because you're fermenting it, and then you have apple cider vinegar. So it takes 4 weeks. It's pretty simple. You're supposed to stir it every day while you have it with the apple scraps in it, and then after that, after you strain it, you let it sit for 2 weeks. So it's pretty simple, and it's a great way to use your apple scraps. Okay, so it's the next day and the apples are done drying, and the apple butter is done simmering, and so we're going to blend it, and then we're going to sit it back in the crock pot or Instapot for 2 hours to let it simmer, and then after that we can either can it or freeze or refrigerate it. Okay, so I did want to add that I actually added more cinnamon and salt because since there's no sugar in it, it just needed some more flavor. So if you end up wanting to add more, it honestly doesn't matter. It's just whatever tastes best to you. Okay, so I brought the crock pot over, and I'm just going to move the apple butter over to the blender so that we can mix it. All the apple butter is blended, and I'm just going to add it back into the pot and let it simmer for 2 hours. We're going to move the apple butter into the mason jars, and then I'm going to water bath can it. Okay, so I have my pot and I'm bringing it to a boil. It's not quite there yet, but I'm going to go ahead and put in some of the ones that I did so they don't get cold. And then I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest. Okay, so that's the whole process of making apple butter and drying apples. It's all pretty straightforward, but I hope you learned something from this video, and thank you so much for watching.